Friends, I miss seeing you in person. I miss our hugs, our discussions, and the strength I gain from you whenever we gather together. But this is a not so bad substitute. Let's embrace these hybrid arrangements while we remain hopeful about the future. I recognize that being hopeful these days is not so easy. In the past 2 weeks, at least a dozen people have told me that they do not watch television news anymore. They also report that they spend only a few minutes a day on a newspaper or online news. The reason? It's just too painful, too depressing. You know the bummers as well as I. Climate change, global warming, wildfires, droughts, and now floods. Floods in or mighty close to our own homes. Afghanistan, COVID and its multivariants, anti-vaxxers, political extremism, court decisions, anti-science, on and on. It's depressing that so much divides us, tears us apart, pushes us backward rather than forward. And some days it just feels like we're digging a hole for ourselves so deep it may be impossible for us as society to climb out. So at this hour, as Yizkor and Emanu-El draw near, I want to talk not about what divides us, but what unites us. Not about the things that immobilize us, but what energizes us. Not about what depresses us, but what should give us hope for the future. 2 caveats. First, I don't want to airbrush away the chasm that divides our nation, threatens our democracy, our health, and the future of our grandchildren. You wouldn't let me airbrush, even if I tried. Second, when I propose, as I will in a moment, that we have a wide consensus in our synagogue community on certain matters, I'm not so obtuse to suggest that we're 100% behind anything. But I'll bet you a few cookies in our sukkah next week that we're 90 to 95% united on these ideas. If I'm wrong, I'll hear from you very quickly, which is just fine. Ecclesiastes teaches, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under the sun. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to break down and a time to build up. I think this is a time to build upon what unites us. So here, very quickly, are 10 ideas that bring us together, that give us the ability to make an impact for good. 10 ideas that might give us a measure of shleimut, of wholeness, of peace in our lives. Number 1, you know the threadbare joke that if you have 2 Jews stranded on an island, they'll need 3 synagogues. 1 for each Jew, and the third is the synagogue that neither would ever step foot in. Despite the stubborn theme of our culture, our spiritual mantra is Shema Yisrael, listen, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. I think we agree that if God exists, God is one, not many. Second unifier. Can we agree that we were slaves in Egypt and that somehow, maybe not Cecil B. DeMille's Hollywood version, but somehow we struggled our way to freedom? This is a core belief. Because we were slaves and God redeemed us, We in turn must care about those who live on the margins. We must care about the stranger, the hungry, the poor, and the oppressed. Consensus number 3. Climate change is real. Enough said. 4. Science is real and vaccines save lives. Also, enough said. 5. Women's rights, and particularly women's reproductive rights, must be protected. All of us, or nearly all, are pro-choice. 6. Gun safety. Last year, over 19,000 people died of firearms. And if you include suicides, the number jumps to 43,000 per year. In 2020 alone, there were 611 mass shootings in the United States. That's almost 2 mass shootings every day. I think we can agree on the necessity of sensible gun laws. 7, and here I'll bet we have 100% agreement, that we are full of gratitude to every healthcare professional, from home health aides and EMS to nurses and doctors, dentists, and every essential worker who cannot zoom it in during the pandemic. Gratitude to first responders who risk their lives to protect ours, and to those in the service industries who take care of our needs. To each of you, I hope we can agree, Toda Rabbi, merci beaucoup, gracias, thank you so much. 8, the existence and the security of the State of Israel are core commitments. We do not agree on every detail of Israel's foreign or domestic policy. I certainly have my issues, and I've shared them. But we Jews should all be able to celebrate that there is a home for every Jew who shows up at Ben Gurion Airport, a home guaranteed by the law of return, unless he's a criminal, and that Israeli scientists, engineers, and first responders have contributed to the well-being of nearly every nation. And we Reform Jews should be thrilled that for the first time ever, a Reform rabbi sits in the Knesset. These are no small matters. Israel is a nation of both moral greatness and dangerous extremism. There is only one Jewish state, the first Jewish Commonwealth in 2,000 years. We owe it honest critique and powerful support. Number 9, Shabbat. Can we agree that our Shabbat, known to most as the Sabbath, is a precious gift that our tradition has bequeathed to us and that we in turn have given to the world? Shabbat affirms the dignity of every human being and ensures us and others rest and renewal. And my 10th unifier is our own temple, Emanu-El. When Soviet Jews sought freedom and resettlement, we were there. When new Americans need us, we are there. When 9/11 came crashing down upon us, we were there to support each other 20 years ago and to support our mortally wounded families. When hunger afflicts our neighbors, we fill truckloads, as we do today, with food, and when New Orleans calls for help, we're there. When our children need the enrichment of Jewish education and culture, we are there. And in the last 30 or so months, when our synagogue was challenged on several fronts, we prove to be resilient, responsive, and true to our values. So here, my friends, are my 10 unifiers. God is one. We were strangers, therefore we care for the stranger. Climate change, science, women's rights, sensible gun laws, gratitude, Israel, Shabbat, and our resilient synagogue community. I invite you to come up with your own 10 unifiers and to engage family and friends in the discussion. Ask where they find consensus in the groups they are a part of or in their own family. Well, I hope that you can embrace mine. I have little doubt that you'll identify unifiers that are much better than mine, and I look forward to hearing them. One final point. I offer these unifiers not just to make us feel good, although feeling good is not a sin. I offer them to remind us at the start of this new spiritual year that we have strength and power. To remind us that as a synagogue community, we can coalesce around shared belief and make a very big difference in our troubled world. I offer these unifiers because to be a vibrant community requires us to share core values. To be an effective community requires us to focus. To be a relevant community requires us to address the issues of our time. To be a holy community requires us to reach higher than ourselves. And to be a sacred community requires us to embrace our diversity and at the same time to affirm the unity that enables us to do God's work. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may it be.